Hey everyone, you are watching Real People, Real Stories Raw with Deb and Jay. And right now we have a really awesome guest. His name is Brett Williams, and I met him actually on Instagram. He's an inspirational personal coach, and he's just kind of inspired me throughout these last couple of months. And I just wanted to bring him on to help showcase what he does, and his story is very powerful. So, hi Brett, how are you today?
I'm fantastic. I must admit, I'm a little bit nervous being on the guest seat. I'm used to being in the interviewing side of things, but I'm super pumped. I'm super excited. I love what you guys are doing, and yeah, really excited to see where this conversation goes. And let's get all the value out there so that people can have more breakthroughs.
Hi guys, how are you? My name is in fact Jay Rothman. That has not changed. It is Sunday, early evening here in Mountain Time, where Debbie and I are coming in from Canada and the Scottsdale, Arizona area. For those on the East Coast, welcome, and for those that are overseas, such as Mr. Brett Williams, it is an early 9 a.m. over in Bali. Originally from, I believe you're from Australia. Are you from the Sydney, Australia area, or?
The last 3 years I've been living in Sydney, yes, but I'm a Perth boy, born and bred. But yeah, as I said, in Sydney the last 3 years, and then have been in Bali, packed up my life in Sydney 2 months ago and moved here. So yeah, so far the journey's exciting and enjoyable.
Well, welcome to the show, and it's just always a pleasure for me to have to share the screen with an international panel. We are representing 3 different countries, and it's a beautiful thing. I love it. I love the fact that we all are going after, we're all chasing the same thing in life. Just trying to figure out how to not just survive, but how to enjoy life, how to live life in gratitude, inner peace, and just let go of the things that no longer serve us. And so I welcome you to the show this morning over in Bali. As we wait for some people to stream in and join us live, I'd like to welcome and acknowledge a few of our people in the community that are with us live right now. Madeline Tamer is here. We just lost Deb. We're going to bring it back on. Daphne is also with us. Thank you for joining us.
Daphne created this amazing necklace that I'm wearing. Just so you know, it's beautiful, and it's it's very special to me. So it's magnetic, and yeah. Sorry, I just popped off. I don't know what happened.
It's technology. It looks like right now, Be Live, the live streaming that we use has got some heavy usage right now. It must be a hot time of the day for a lot of people to go live on Facebook streaming. So one of the things that I wanted to just touch on is when Debbie and I started the show, we felt that there was a need to also invite what I'll refer to as special guests on, individuals that bring value to our conversation as it relates to any type of abuse, domestic abuse, mental, physical, sexual, emotional abuse and or assault, that whether it be female or male, that have endured. We have had a tremendous outpouring of people reaching out to Debbie and I through the show, and also off once we're off air. And what we felt was like, it's important that we also bring added value to the community by inviting guests to come on, such as yourself, Brett, that can really help men and women that show up, that if they want to continue some type of coaching, mentoring, teaching, support, that there are people in around the world that can bring some value and some relief to them in their healing journey. And so what I'd like to do, Brett, is invite you to spend maybe a few minutes and share with us in the community what exactly it is that you do, and why and how you got into the business. And then I'd like to share shortly thereafter a video that you posted not that long ago, and share it with the community, and then we'll come back after the video.
Perfect. I appreciate that, Jay. So I guess in short, I'm a women's relationship coach. Now, my main focus when it comes to that is helping women rebuild after emotionally abusive relationships and also break the cycle of dating the same guy. Now, whilst, yes, women's relationship coach, but I'm not sort of like a dating coach as such, because the first and foremost relationship that is important is the relationship with self. And then after that, it's also rebuilding the relationship with the masculine. And because what I have seen is for a lot of women who have gone through emotional abuse, they tend to lose faith in the masculine. They lose faith in trusting them and just being able to believe that they're there for the right purposes. Because a lot of women that I've spoken to, their belief is that, you know, guys can't be trusted. They're always after one thing. They're always looking for something else. And this itself doesn't create the foundations for a healthy relationship. So first and foremost, what I work with all of my clients is to have them really connect into themselves, understand their true value, accept and love all aspects of themselves. Because what I have seen as well is that through the emotional abuse, they tend to lose their identity. They tend to start questioning, who am I? They start to think, well, am I broken? There's something wrong with me, or because they've been manipulated. Now, when it comes to how I got into becoming a women's relationship coach and specifically focusing in on these particular things, I won't go into too much detail, but there was particular relationship dynamics that I witnessed growing up. And let's just say that it was very close to myself, and it's something that really became very ingrained within me. I didn't actually realize how deeply it was ingrained into me, just to see the female being disrespected and how much that really, really gets under my skin. So for me, what I'm looking at is being able to guide women to find that strength within themselves. Now, I'm not talking about the opposite extreme of becoming overly dominant or anything like that, but I also actually encourage women and educate them in and around masculine and feminine energy so that they can actually understand the difference in the actual energy dynamics. Because one of the things that I have seen is that we've got a balance happening in life at the moment where there's more men stepping into their feminine energy and more women stepping into the masculine energy. And whilst that can work, it's around having the awareness of, okay, now understanding how to soften into the feminine so that the male can step into his masculine and be able to create that polar dynamics, which the relationship is requiring to have things like, you know, sexual pleasures and that tension, which just makes you want to connect with each other. Versus if both parties are in their masculine, well, it's going to be like your best friends. So educating in and around that side of things, having them become more consciously aware as to how they're interacting, and really just to develop the relationship with themselves so that they can then attract in a new reality and a new partner. Because many of the women that I have spoken to, they're either gone straight into focusing all on their career, and their career is going amazingly, and they've disconnected themselves off from the relationship side of things because they've constantly got that experience with men maybe being insecure around their job or their position or anything like that. So really having them own themselves, work through some of those limitations, and allow them to attract in a higher quality man. So that's kind of the focus as to where it is. As I said, it's a very rewarding role. How I got into becoming a coach, it all started from my own personal journey. I've been through my own emotionally abusive relationship. I'm very grateful for her. Whilst it broke me mentally and emotionally a lot, I'm extremely grateful for her because she's the one person who's had the most influence on me to be who I am today and to be doing what I'm doing today. So I've gone through it so I can understand the experiences of it. I have the innate ability to be able to create a safe space so women can open up and trust in myself to be able to hold that space and support them through it. So I think overall, that's why I have women gravitating towards me to work with me. There was a period of time there where I was trying to work with the men, but my message just wasn't resonating with them. So maybe at some point, but I still do work with men on a one-on-one basis. But my main focus is more in and around working with women these days.
So a couple of things that pop for me, Brett. Well, one is that I just want to share that for those that are watching us live or catch us on replay, and Debbie and I have talked about this on a prior shows, is that our intention is to provide a safe space in this moment for our guests and anyone that chooses to watch the show, a safe place where anything that you feel comfortable sharing or not sharing is this is a no judgment zone. It always will be. And Debbie and I come from the space of pure, authentic love and kindness, and understanding that I truly believe that most of us have endured in our lifetime some type of abuse, whether it be emotional, mental, physical, spiritual, and or sexual. We all have been traumatized, wounded, and scarred at some point in our life. And, this is a platform for women and men to come forward as part of their healing journey. As long as, they're all volunteers, people that come on here come on because they're ready to share their story as part of the healing journey. And what unfolds during a show and subsequently thereafter is an absolutely beautiful experience for all three of us. I could tell you last week when our show was over with Bronny, there was such an amazing elevated energy in the studio between the three of us. Mm-hmm. And I then offered to do some coaching with Bron after the fact. And we got together this week. Bron comes out of Sydney, Australia area, and we did a beautiful coaching session, and we're going to do another one this week. And so, it's just a space where people can come and share part of the healing journey where they're at, and also provide resources and education opportunity for those that are ready to step into healing of their mind, body, and soul. And so I just wanted to put that out there. And Brett, I also wanted to ask you from your perspective, because the last number of shows that Debbie and I have done, the women that have come on were all, I'd say, survivors of some type of sexual assault or abuse. And from your perspective, Brett, does it matter if the women that you work with have not endured sexual assault or abuse, and because their focus appears to be on the emotional abuse side? Does it really make a difference, or is abuse from your perspective?
Abuse is abuse from my perspective, and a lot of the women that I have spoken to, when I start to really open up the conversation, I find that sexual abuse has been part of it as well. So no, as far as I'm concerned, abuse is abuse. I guess the reason why I focus on the emotional abuse aspect is because it can be sometimes, it can go unnoticed until the damage is done. Whereas the sexual abuse is a physical aspect where you're kind of aware as to, I'm very delicate in the way that I'm saying this, but you know it's happened as such. Whereas the emotional abuse is something that most of the time they're being manipulated. They don't really know that they're being manipulated by their partner, and that is creating very deep emotional challenges. And that's kind of, I guess, why I focus on the emotional side of things. But to me, ultimately, abuse is abuse. It all carries the same sort of structures as far as rebuilding process goes. And as I said, a lot of the women that I've spoken to, when I actually start getting into that conversation space, I find that they have been abused, because the effect when it comes to sexual abuse is that it creates a different dynamic in the relationship and how they see and receive love. Because what I have, through my experiences, it's the case of that is what they deem to be quote unquote love when they were younger. It was the way that there was the attention received and things like that. And some of them have created the belief within themselves that in that moment, they've got to do absolutely anything to please the partner, even if it's not something that they ethically want to do. So it can be a very damaging and very deep wound, that's for sure. So it definitely carries an emotional aspect to it as well. on the other side of the physical aspect.
As we continue the conversation, when you feel like it's appropriate for me to put the video on that I wanted to share, let me know if you think it's now or, because we can. What's that?
Go for it. Anytime's a good time.
Let's put it on. It's really awesome.
I'm gonna share my desktop screen and
just saying, all three of us have really great smiles if we all smile at the same time.
Yeah.
Come on, Jay, let's see your smile. Teeth, come on.
Can you still see me?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'd break it down to 5 easy steps so that you can become more happy. Let's just dive straight into it, because maybe you're somebody who's struggling with this and you're not wanting to sit around and wait and find out what they are. So let's just dive straight into it. Number 1, stop trying to please everybody. This is probably one of the biggest traits that I see with a number of my clients who are like fixer rescuers or people pleasers, or however you might want to look at it. They're the personal traits that put other people before you. This is one of the biggest downsides when it comes to actually being happy, because other people are not going to respect you in the way that you desire to be respected. So ultimately, they're going to use you. They're going to take advantage of you. And that's going to leave you feeling resentful and frustrated and just unhappy, which is the opposite of what it is that we're wanting to achieve here. So first and foremost, stop trying to please everybody. Second, stop trying to get everybody to like you. Now, this one is probably going to trigger some of the internal conversation of being like, oh, but what if they don't like me? All of this sort of thing, then who am I? Then what am I going to do? All of that. But relax, breathe. I can assure you that when you actually stop caring about trying to get other people to like you, you're going to find that you are going to open up a new space within yourself that is going to aid in creating a deeper sense of happiness with inside. And the thing is when you actually try and get people to like you, you're actually doing a lot more detriment to yourself, because people like somebody who is like them. So in order for you to have other people to like you, you need to be like them. So you're not being you. You're not being true to yourself. You're being true to who they are. And that is just going to create a massive disconnect with inside of your heart, inside of your soul. And in here, it's going to be just screaming that you're not being true to yourself. So stop trying to get people to like you and stop trying to be like them. All right, number 3, stop caring about what other people think. So probably one of the most challenging aspects in here as well is going to be stopping to care what other people think. Now, when it comes to this, we can be so caught up on what other people say about us, or, if we do something, then what are they going to react? Are they going to judge me? All of this. But I can assure you that when you stop caring about what other people think about you, you start to get freedom, not just happiness, but you start to get a freedom within inside of you that allows you to be more of who you are. So how to stop caring what other people think? It's a case of understanding that everybody's on their own personal journey. We are all in a different space and a different point in time. And at the same point, they are only operating from what their perception is, what their belief is. It actually has nothing to do with you, but everything to do with the other person, because something that you say, okay, they might react, but they're not reacting because you said it. They're reacting because what you said triggered something within inside them, and that's where they're speaking from. So it actually has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with their own personal growth and their own journey. Number 4, start connecting with who you are. Start understanding, who are you? What are your hobbies? What are your interests? What are the things you love? What do you want to do? Like, what lights you up? And also understand your values, because when you start to understand who you are, now that we've gone through everything about stopping pleasing people, stop caring about what they think, stop trying to get people to like you, when you start to connect in with yourself and understand your own value set, understand your own desires, your enjoyments, everything like this, get clear on you. One of the best ways to be able to do this is get your own space. Isolate yourself for a week or 2. Be in your own space and actually just allow whatever it is to come up, because when you actually give yourself the chance to be quiet in here, you will actually start to understand who you are as an individual. All right, lastly, number 5, put down that social media, put down that phone, put down that technology, and go and do something physical. Get outside, go for a walk, go and put your feet in the grass, go to the gym, go do yoga, go do something that fuels your soul and not something that burns your brain out or has you in a space where you're constantly questioning or judging yourself or comparing yourself to other people like social media has, scrolling through Instagram, scrolling through Facebook, seeing other people's lives, and you're only seeing their highlight reels. So step number 5 is to put down the phone, leave it. It's going to probably create a little bit of anxiety within inside of you, but just be with it. It is okay. I can assure you, you will be fine. Go for a walk around the block. Do something short. Just do something so that you can start to have that deeper connection within yourself. Because I can assure you, if you follow the 5 simple steps that I just outlined, stop pleasing everybody, stop trying to get everybody to like you, stop caring what other people think, connect in with who you are, understand your values and what lights you up, and go and do something away from social media, I can assure you that if you go and do those 5 steps, and these steps can just take a couple of minutes, they don't have to take long, but once you've gone through those and had that process as a unconscious reaction, now moving forward, I can assure you, you will get more happiness within inside of you. So like always, if you got any value out of this one, like it, share it, comment it, show it some love, and check out the details in the description. See you on the next one. Cheers.
Hold on one sec.
I'm still here, but the camera's frozen, so I was just trying to get it to.
Hi, Jay. Well, it looks like it's just me right now, but we're waiting for everybody else to come on. That was really powerful for me because my whole life I've just tried to accept people or tried to get people to accept me for who I am. And I just learned to just be myself, and the people who want to like me, it doesn't matter because it's who I am, and if they accept me, they do. Hey, Jay, I can see you now.
Hey, so were you guys able to see the actual video, or could you only hear it?
I only heard it, but we all looked really good.
It should have. Yeah, I mean, actually, Brett looked really good on video. Unfortunately, I don't know why it didn't pop, but you all could hear it. Deb, Brett, you can hear us right now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, and I can see. I'm just looking at it here, so we can see your screen in the bottom corner on the structure. It's look. We can always just put the link to it in the comments as well, so that if people do want to go and have a look at it.
So I guess one of the questions as I listened to that video, I actually just did a hike and happiness coaching experience, an Airbnb experience this afternoon with someone who was in town from Massachusetts. Hold on one sec.
Yet at the same time, on the other side of all of that, you've got.
And so it's interesting because what you talked about today is exactly what we hit on. But what resonates with me is how does any of that help a woman that reaches out to you and wants to work with you because she has the awareness that she's either still in the midst of an abusive relationship or she's on a backside of it or somewhere in the process? Like, what value does any of that bring to a woman who is in absolute trauma and is in the early stages of healing?
One of the biggest things is in the message that's sort of underlying to that particular video is really disconnecting from what's going on around you at this point in time so that you can get clear on what is going on for you at this point in time. It can be so easy to distract our minds with wanting to please other people, and social media obviously is a massive thing as well. So what I have seen is that sometimes women who have been through the emotional abuse side of things, they're not comfortable by themselves, and the thoughts and everything that goes on in their mind is not something that they're really ready to deal with and process. And what I'm highlighting through that particular video is to actually disconnect from everybody around you, accept and honor yourself, and be with yourself so that you can actually start to process some of those thoughts and then start to be able to get a clear picture as to where to go next. And if that position of where to go next is to reach out for support and coaching, well, then you're going to have that space mentally to be able to realize that that's what the next step is for you, versus staying in a cycle which is the constantly giving to everybody else and kind of being like everybody's mother and organizer and everything like this, and then not actually giving to yourself and not actually realizing the full impact that it's having for yourself. Because one of the things that I put on my Instagram story the other day was that nobody's going to change until the pain of changing outweighs the pain of, the pain of staying the same outweighs the pain of changing. Mm-hmm. Now, if we distract ourselves so much by giving and being there for other people and worrying about what everybody else is thinking, we're not allowing that pain for ourselves to really sit. And as a result, we're never going to be able to get into a position where we're going to create the life that we truly want, because we're not allowing that pain to drive us from where we are. As much as you don't want to go through pain and everything like that, I'm sure all three of us can look back at a period of our life where something that was emotionally destructive or just challenging was actually one of the catalysts as to why we are who we are today. So it was only because maybe there was a lesson in there a few times and we didn't quite learn it, but then there was this one moment. For some people, they can be ending up in hospital, or some people can be suicidal thoughts, or even trying it, or varying other things that could really be that is what they've got to get to actually understand the lessons that are coming through for themselves. So my message through that is to have them actually realize it before they get to that place.
So, Brett, I appreciate you so much for explaining that. And there's so many comments or words that just resonate with me in this moment. We speak the same language. We just say it a little differently, but the end result is the same. The way I describe it is we have a choice in life. We could either continue to live in pain, or we can feel the pain. And what I see on an ongoing basis pretty consistently is that when we are in the midst of unresolved internal pain, and we are still at the mercy of either in an abusive relationship, or it's just we're maybe even detached from the relationship physically, but we are still hooked. We're still living in that internal bondage because we haven't allowed ourselves to walk through the grace of feeling the pain. And so there's wherein lies the choices. We think, we go to denial and minimizing, thinking that if we don't talk about it and we don't reveal it, that we're okay. As long as we keep it suppressed and stuffed within us, we're okay. But the reality is we're living in dis-ease and we're living in bondage. Mm-hmm. And what that turns into, that dis-ease turns into disease. We get sick physically, and some of us get sick mentally. We end up with some significant mental disorders due to the abuse or due to the traumas that we have, thinking that we don't want to talk about or rehash, but we're living in the pain. And I could tell you, from my perspective, I was one of those guys. I mean, I lived in that pain for a very long time. And it wasn't until hitting my rock bottom, which was the medical, I got sick, very sick, with multiple diagnoses, because I was holding it in for so long that eventually that mind-body connection was so significant, because it is what it is. It nearly took me out. And so once I understood that the only way that I was going to heal my own mind, body, and soul is that I had to be willing to reveal all of my truths, mm-hmm. all of the experiences that had impacted my life to that degree. And once I was able to start to feel the pain and let it out through the words I spoke, through the emotions that I felt, a tremendous amount of tears. I cried every single day for almost 2 years. And I tell you what, that I had done that my whole life. And that was the beginning of the healing process, is when I was willing to just be and speak the truth. I could feel it, but through the feeling of it, I was able to reveal it and then heal it. And Debbie and I talk about this on every show. And I love what you talk about, Brett, when you talk about, basically in that video, it's about starting to understand that it's called self-care. Is like, there's a saying, it's none of my business what you think of me. And you basically touched on that in this 5-minute clip, is that when we start to understand who we are and really what who we want, who, the child within is still alive, and it's the child a lot of the time that's been wounded, A, and B, that when we start to reconnect with who we are at the soul level, not at the exterior level, but truly coming home to ourselves, we learn how to do that through self-care. And you touched on that in this video clip as well. And I could tell you that once I started to understand that I was no longer my responsibility to try to save other people, please other people, fix other people, but it was time for me to start to focus on how to take care of myself, because I was going down. And once I started to have that amazing experience, it changed everything in my life.
I was just gonna say, Jay, I was just gonna say, because when we're trying to focus on other people and trying to please them, trying to make it better for them, our existence better for them, we're not focusing on how we're actually showing up in the world. When we start focusing on ourselves, that is the only time when other people are going to recognize and see what our value is, only when we're ready to accept our value. But when we're distracting ourselves with other people's thoughts, feelings, emotions, we don't even know our own value. So what really helped it, I was just going to say, Brett, you completely touched on everything that I experienced. And if I had you as a personal coach before, I think I wouldn't have had to experience it, but I think I felt I needed to experience it to be able to help other people. I was in an abusive relationship for 5 years, and it was emotionally abusive. It was both of us. We're so toxic for each other. When my son, the turning point was when he turned 2 and he started treating me the same way as his father was treating me. I realized right then and there that I am responsible for this child's normal and his existence in this world and how he's going to treat his future wife. And I realized I didn't like how I was being treated, so I had to be that example. So I guess we all have a responsibility to be our own example. That's how we teach others, is by being that example for other people, by living our truth and living what we can handle. If we compromise what we can handle, then we're devaluing ourselves, I feel.
Absolutely. And Jay, there's, you touched on about the just having a look at that one aspect of life, like looking at the positive. Like, I know I was stuck in there for a while and not wanting to acknowledge the negative or the darkness or the shadow self or anything like that. One of the things that I think is also creating a role within that these days is personal development to some degree. You know, okay, yeah, I'm in the industry, but at the same time, I think there's an aspect of personal development which is creating a disassociation from people to be real with themselves. Now, what I'm saying there is that you've got quotes, motivational quotes. There's a number of people that I've spoken to and, asked how they are, and they've basically come back with a cut and paste quote. And it's because we're being conditioned to constantly think positive, constantly pretend like the world is all okay. Mm-hmm. And there's some aspect, I believe, of these motivational quotes that is actually creating an impact on people actually being able to connect with their darkness, because they've just cut that part off from themselves. So it's creating a lot more internal pain and disassociation from the stuff that they've actually got to go through. So I just wanted to put that in there as well. So I know I do quotes on my Instagram, but I like to try and actually challenge the mindset rather than just saying everything's going to be okay. But yeah, that's something.
Wow, that's such a powerful statement, Brett. I don't even know where to go with it right now. You just basically that's such a profound statement. Because what are people supposed to hold on to? There's I don't know how many, probably millions of self-help books that are out there. And that's part of the challenge is that, at least in the United States, I don't know how it is over in Australia or Bali, but there's a large part of our population that thinks that if they just go and buy this one more book, I'm going to hear something, I'm going to read something that's going to be the game changer that's going to change my life.
Yep.
And there's a lot of books being sold, and there's a lot of people that are still in tremendous pain. Why do you think, and maybe I'm putting words in your mouth, and if I am, I apologize. But why do you think it's possible that the self-help books don't bring us the relief that we need and give us the clarity to heal our minds, bodies, and souls? What's lacking?
Because we deeply believe that we're broken,
Yes.
when in fact we're not.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We're not broken. It's
And that
what
we
we're
have
conditioned.
Yeah, we have all of the answers within us.
Yeah.
I know I was guilty of needing the next course. I was guilty of the next program. And I think there comes a point when you truly accept that you're not broken, but there's some stuff you need to work through, because we all got stuff that we need to work through, but you're not broken and you don't need fixing. Then you can start to go and read motivational quotes or read books or go to programs from more of a higher level. Not from a point of I'm broken, you fix me, but more of a case of, okay, I know that I'm not broken. I know that I've got some stuff to work through. What is some of the knowledge that I can gain so that it will actually help me live life easier and move through some of the things that I've got now? So it's a completely different sort of paradigm shift where when I had that for myself, things really did change, because as I said, for me, I was in that space of I'm broken, and I was also not wanting to acknowledge the negative stuff, or even just, when something isn't going right, it's okay to acknowledge it and just go, you know what, that sucks. Because when you acknowledge that life isn't working out, you take the power away from what it has on you, and you get to own that space. And then you get to be free and have the choice to actually choose something else that is more in alignment of it. Instead of, to some degree, society, because of social media, has got us just portraying our highlight reels. And look, I'm a little bit guilty of it as well on Instagram, but I like to also keep it a bit more real where I can and be more vulnerable, just to say that, whatever's going on the screens is not always what you see and what is reality. So being able to really connect in with that and actually getting to the point where if things aren't good, acknowledge it. Don't get into the habit of just going and distracting yourself with watching videos or scrolling through motivational quotes or something like that. Acknowledge it, own it, accept it, embrace it, love it, become friends with it. Because when you do, you actually don't just get happiness, you get freedom within yourself.
Yes. I completely agree. I was so rejecting the negative of my personality, and I have a temper. I don't anymore, but I was, and I did, because I held everything in, and I just rejected it, and I only showed and portrayed what I wanted other people to see. When I finally was able to reveal that, first of all, I'm not perfect. Second of all, I make mistakes. I do swear. So if I do swear now, I'm sorry. But I accept that about myself, and that's who I am. I'm imperfectly perfect. And I think being able to accept that, like you said, is the first step to healing. The second step is being able to acknowledge and accept help where it comes at you. So motivational quotes, books, different things that you can actually relate to that will help you raise to a higher level, to vibrate on a different, complete realm, right? Completely agree.
Yeah, it's there's a thought that just came through my mind, and I can't think of it. Jay, you go.
What's that?
I can't think of what I was going to say. There was a thought that I was going to share. Obviously,
Brett, when a woman, when you were aware that a woman is wants help from you, but is very fearful of disclosing and starting the process, is that part of what your clarity call is about? And how do you determine if it's a good fit or not? Because I know you had a clarity call today, and you were able to jump on our show live ahead of time to kind of have a warm up here. So part of it is what qualifies someone as being a good fit for you or not? Is it because that's, I guess, the first question. And the second, the back end of that question is how do you bring someone on board that you just know they're in so much pain, yet they're afraid to start the process of disclosure and sharing and the healing process?
So the first question being the right fit. ultimately I know my strengths. I know where my main focus is, and that's really around guiding a client to see their inner value, see their inner beauty, see their inner strength.
I think he might have cut out.
I took him out
Oh, okay.
because he was frozen. So,
Okay.
Brett, you there?
Yeah, I am.
I took you out because you were frozen, and I was hoping that you'd come back in motion. You still appear to be frozen right now.
I mean,
Do you want to jump out of the studio maybe and then
I'll
come
do
back
that.
on? I'll take you out. Gotta love technology.
There's nothing wrong with it. There's only little bugs.
So he's not visually. I see him in a lobby, but I don't see him. There he is. Let's see. It's maybe we got. This is part of it. Is he's coming in from Bali? I mean.
There you are.
Yeah.
By the way, Brett, before you jump back into those questions, I noticed you've got some absolutely beautiful. Some looks like some trees in the background. Are those bamboo, or what's behind you? Behind that beautiful windowscape.
So it's just some trees and not bamboo there. No, I don't know what trees they are, but there's frangipani tree down there as well. So
here's my truth right now is I wanted that to be a bamboo tree. I've been admiring it for the past 30 minutes, and so since you don't really know what kind of tree it is, as far as I'm concerned, my perspective is that you have a beautiful bamboo tree behind you.
Brett, I've been admiring your bright white teeth.
Making me blush.
You brushed, yay.
Appreciate it. So we'll go back into those questions. So it's a case of how do I know it's the right fit? Ultimately, I know where my strengths are. My strengths are with guiding a client to really connect in with their deep value and worth and confidence, and being able to shine the light there for them so that they can actually see it and own it and believe it themselves. I have a very, I'm not sure my camera's playing up again, so.
That's okay, I can hear you.
All right, well, let's keep going and hopefully it'll sort itself out. I have a very indirect but delicate way in which I work. So my work is not around telling people what to look at or anything like that, but it's a case of I will guide to a place in a very gentle and delicate way so that they get to see the story as to what it was, and we get to be able to transform the meaning of that story and bring love and compassion to it. So a lot of it is also, there's so many different facets to it all, but there's other aspects which is around becoming more consciously aware, so that when it's building the confidence side of things, it's a case of being able to understand how you interact with the world around you and the visual and the auditory triggers and how that actually triggers all of the emotional past within inside, and then having that responsive from there. So this is the space in which I work. So if I'm actually speaking to somebody and they're wanting to find their purpose and their passion or create that life, well, yes, I've done that for myself, but that's not where my coaching mastery is. So for me, it's really around being true and authentic to my purpose, because at the end of the day, my focus with any of my clients is ensuring that I'm able to be able to get them the results that they are looking for on the basis that they do the work that's required. Mm-hmm. So I will guide them, I will support them, I'll work with them. And generally that's at the moment I've been doing some one-on-one stuff from a 12-week perspective. And when I get together with somebody, we're a team throughout the whole thing. So one of the things that I ensure that we do is that if there's any breakthroughs throughout the week, even if it's not when our allotted time slot is, I've got a particular application that I utilize, and they can message me directly on there and I will get to them. And if we need to jump on an extra call that week, well, we'll do that. But there is also in the works at the moment a group program, which should be put together by the end of this week. So that's kind of the way that I operate. because I want to ensure that that's the right fit for them and the right fit for me, and as I said, be able to achieve the results that they're looking for. So for me, it's not so much about the money. Yes, it's a business, but my main focus is the client. Like, even I will go above and beyond to ensure that my client gets the results in which they're looking for.
And just for clarity, for those that are watching live or on replay, they don't have to be local in Bali to work with you, right? You work through video chat, through Zoom, through Messenger.
Absolutely. For me, it's a case of I had actually even disconnected from the thought of working with people here in Bali until I spoke to somebody here who I've got a meeting with on Wednesday, and they brought it to my attention that there is a lot of people here to also work with. But no, my work, I've got clients in the US, Saudi Arabia, Australia, Canada, anywhere in the world. It really doesn't matter.
Yeah, it sounds so familiar. I had David Strickle on Real Men Real Talk Raw Friday night, and we were chatting a little bit about that. He said that more than 50% of the people that he works with are not in the US, and he basically listed off every country that you just listed and then some. And so, we have the ability to have that global reach as coaches, and the old traditional model of you got to be sitting in the office and across from your coach or your therapist is really no longer applies. We connect with people just by doing a video chat. We could have a very safe, intimate environment and space for them to feel comfortable to start the healing journey.
Absolutely. And whilst I do operate through video chat, I utilize Zoom. Some women aren't comfortable with having the camera on, so that's perfectly okay. So it's not a requirement, but it helps with that connection. One of the things that I did have a conversation around with somebody at one point was they found it a little bit weird having this conversation sitting in their home. This particular lady had been going to therapy, and obviously that creates an emotional connection of, okay, I'm going to therapy, therefore I am this person, and this is what I'm here to expect, or here to portray or share. But one of the things that I found that is so powerful when it comes to working with Zoom and having that client in their home is that they feel safe, secure in their environment. And that's the first part to ensuring that they feel safe and comfortable to open up and share. And one of the things you mentioned before is something that I actually say when I open up any of my clarity calls, is actually clearing the space, ensuring that they understand that it's a safe, judgment-free zone for anything to be shared, and nothing is too weird and wacky.
It sounds like you're just a really good friend.
Based on one of my past clients, it's sort of something that she said as well, and it's I pride myself on it. I don't take my work lightly, because I also understand that people are trusting me with their most precious thing, which is their life.
Yeah,
and
it's amazing.
Yeah.
So, as far as a woman that appears they're in significant pain, they want to do the work, but then they get scared. They're like, I want to do it, I know I need to do it, but I'm just so afraid that when I start, it's just going to open up so much, and I don't know if I'm ready to do it, but I want to do it. How do you walk them off the plank and into the healing process?
The first thing I'll say in response to that is, one thing that I've said in the past is that I can walk others through their darkness because I've walked through my own. So that allows me to create that safe space. And for some, they don't necessarily know that they've already walked off the plank, because we've just had a very safe, open conversation and starting to have breakthroughs, and then it becomes just an on-flow of where that conversation is going. So sometimes at the same point, like this may sound a little bit abrupt, but even when some women are in such pain and really know that they want to change, but are too scared to actually take that step. Like, I'm not going to force anybody. At the end of the day, they need to be 100% ready and willing and wanting to do it. But sometimes the thing is they just haven't hit their rock bottom yet. They're in a lot of pain. They don't like where they are, but they just haven't hit their rock bottom enough to have the pain of changing be more painful than the pain of staying the same. And to be honest, for me, that really tears my heart apart, because as a coach, I can see where they're at.
Yes.
I asked somebody a question the other day of, what's the possible future look like? And their response was, I can't see one. Now, I knew where she was going with it, but I just had that open up. And, the thought of, or the answer being around taking her own life, I really wanted to work with her, but after the conversation, she's got into the decision of needing more time and it's not the right time and all of this. Something that I see very often, and it doesn't matter how many times I explain this, is that I can have a call with somebody, and if they're not, for whatever reason, right there, right now, ready to make the commitment from a financial standpoint, and they want to use money as an excuse and a reason not to, they won't come back. Because what will happen is, okay, they will understand their situation at a different level, but then they go back into their own comfort world, and their ego or their shadow self will start to say, life's not that bad, and start to reconnect them with staying the same.
Yeah.
Even though there was that really, really deep moment that they had, which they really wanted to shift it, and that's why they reached out. When you go back into the old environment, you'll start to justify that the abuse is not that bad, or the environment's not that bad, or look, okay, he did it this time, he didn't mean to. Let's, maybe next time I'll do something. To be honest, I'm trying not to get too fired up right now, but that really pisses me off, because I can see the pain in what they're in, and I know my ability to be able to guide them through that.
Just remember, Brett, you can only meet somebody as far as they're willing to go within themselves. Absolutely.
And I was going to say that I need to accept as a coach that everybody's on their own journey, and for some, it's not their time yet.
Yep.
Brad, my God, these words could have been coming out of my mouth right now. I think that that's just one of the challenges that we face is, as you said, when you could see and feel that you could help somebody and they're just not ready yet. And as you clearly just stated, they probably haven't hit their rock bottom, although it looks like they may have. We know, I have watched people hit a bottom lower than what we thought was their rock. Look, I was 48 and I had a heart attack, and I thought that was my rock bottom. And I had to get a whole lot sicker than that. I had to get way sicker and let 7-8 more years pass before I hit my second bottom and knew that I was out of time and I was out of answers. And if I continued along the path that I was, that I may not be alive in 6 months. And so you're right. And sometimes, unfortunately, sometimes death is the rock bottom. And when the physical part has been impacted by the mind-body connection, and we are now putting our life in danger, at risk through all types of diseases and autoimmune and cancer and heart and all kinds of diagnoses, sometimes people are not willing to, they're so fearful that they're going to trip themselves up and getting sick physically that they're not ready to do the work emotionally. And the physical ends up taking them out anyway. So it is a tough part, but I want to shift gears here because I want to end this on a really positive note, Brett.
Yes.
And I'd like for you to share with us, if you could share with us what some of the successes you have experienced in your work and in working with women and any men that have reached out and come to you because they are in trouble in their homes, in their relationships, and they want to get out or need some guidance on how to heal from an abusive relationship. What type of success stories or testimonials can you share with us to leave us with some hope this evening?
One of the, I guess one of my proud moments was with a particular client who she was very, very skeptical. She was sort of testing me every single step of the way. She's very She has a very high education as far as an MBA, pharmacy, and all this sort of thing. And so for her, it was very logical stuff, and she really wanted to see the evidence base. At the very, very start, she was really just testing me and challenging me. And I said to her, look, I have no problem. You keep showing up. I'll prove that this is going to work and it's going to create the results and what you're looking for. So for her, she was somebody, when she came to me, she wanted to hide from the world. She was feeling insecure, lacking a lot of confidence, and just, I wouldn't say lifeless, but there was definitely not the spark there. And after working with her in the first couple of weeks, the industry that she works in, there's a lot of kind of like corporate speeches and presentations and that side. And she had been asked to do a presentation a couple of weeks after we started working together. And for her, even just walking down the hallways at work was something that was uncomfortable for herself, because she just wanted to hide and had this kind of barrier around herself that just wanted nobody to look at her. Anyway, in a matter of a couple of weeks, she was up there on stage doing her presentation. I was cheering her on, gave her some tools and tips and techniques to be able to work through some of the things. Plus also, we transformed a number of the limiting stories in which she was running that was keeping her from actually stepping into her glory. And for her, gosh, it would have been probably about, 5 months or so ago now, and I checked in with her just recently. She was in Dubai doing another presentation. She's been asked to speak at more events. She's been asked to do some work at the college and be a lecturer there. And it's just really, really massively transformed her life in a way that she's never would have even expected or anticipated. So I guess one of the things that I'd say in that is that getting into the work, yes, you can be skeptical. Yes, you can be sort of challenging it or wanting to know how it's going to work. But the proof is in the pudding and the results will come. Mm-hmm. And the thing is what I like to also do is then represent the client back to where they were, because the thing is we also forget where we came from and forget how far we've actually come. So for her, it was massive, massive life-changing experience. And for others, it could be transforming relationships with parents or themselves is obviously a big one, but just really even in one conversation, shifting a story in which they've been bound, or that they've been binding themselves with for the last number of years, and just giving them freedom within that moment. And then, okay, we work with the next thing, and then we work with the next thing. But it doesn't have to take a long period of time. There's a lot of little wins and breakthroughs that happen through the process.
Beautiful, beautiful. Brett, I know we're just about out of time for you, and I want to respect, I believe you have an appointment coming up. How can people get hold of you? How can they reach you if they're interested to have a clarity call, continue the conversation, and possibly consider working with you?
So I guess the main social media aspect is Instagram, which my handle for that is I am Brett Williams, all one word, no spaces. And then my business is Life with Options. So the website, lifewithoptions.net, which ultimately means freedom. So that's kind of where that's come from. So they're probably the two main platforms. By all means, reach out to me. Make sure that if you do, let me know that you've come across me via this show. And it's always good to know where people have found me from and everything like that. So
I just wanted to say thank you so much, Brett, for showing up tonight, because I feel that anyone who's reaching out to help others can only succeed by actually going and helping others. And I really appreciate you being so open and so honest with us on the show tonight. And I really look forward to talking to you again and hopefully helping and reaching more people.
Most welcome. Well, if my camera was on, you would be able to see that I've got a massive smile, and I'm really, really grateful and appreciate for both of you and for having me on. It's an absolute honor. It's an absolute blessing. And as we have all spoken, our mission in life is really aligned. So I'm excited to see where it all goes.
Hey, Brett, I'm going to take you off the screen. Do you have to jump off in this moment, or do you have like 1 minute left? Because I'd like to see that smile.
Yeah, me too.
You do that, and I'll make that work. And I'll just get myself set up for this other thing.
All right.
Should we play some music or sing something?
No, it's okay. Sometimes, yeah, he's still frozen in a moment. You know, I actually enjoy quiet sometimes, just having a moment of silence. Sometimes it just feels right. It's uncomfortable for a lot of people when there's quiet. But I'm taking him back off here. Maybe he's got to. If I see him come back on, I'll bring him on. But so Deb, just to wrap up from my perspective, one of the things I don't know if you caught Jay Shetty's coaching session this morning, but I watched it a couple of times, and at one point, somebody asked him, someone that's being coached with us, asked him what his credentials are.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really surprised to see that. But, his answer was, I'm a student of life.
Oh, love it.
And, I love that answer because that was so meaningful to me to hear that he was comfortable saying he's a student of life rather than saying he's a student of Harvard University or, Gonzaga up in Washington State or whatever. He's a student of life,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what a lot of us are out here doing is what we bring is our experience of having gone through a lot of pain and having gone through trauma and being able to come out on the other side and having walked through the process of feeling the pain, revealing the pain so that we can begin the healing process of the pain.
Completely.
And so so how do you feel about tonight's show? What did you think about what Brett had to say, and overall, what's your takeaway from the show tonight?
I completely, I knew that it was going to be amazing because I have seen him. That's how I met him, is on Instagram. And we did a clarity coaching call because I was looking for some more clarity. He kind of just seemed to start evolving the universe kind of works in mysterious ways, but it's how our show is evolving, how his coaching was evolving. I'm like, you really need to be on our show. And it was such a eye-opening experience just to see how much he is wanting to help other women stand in their power. When any kind of abuse is it's a step, it's a stomp on who you are as a person. It's a personal repression, and as soon as you realize that you don't have to please anyone but yourself, I think that's a message that was really resonated with me, because I've been through all the stages that he helped his clients through. I've been through everything without help. So if I had that help right when I needed it, I know that I probably would have progressed a lot faster than I am now.
What resonates with me too, Deb, is that we so quickly gravitate to saying it's the women that have gone through some type of emotional and mental abuse. But I have met men over the past 3.5 years that were willing to share their truth, and that they had accepted unacceptable behavior in their home from their partners, and their partners were not men, they were women.
Yep.
They were their wives. And so although that is Brett's focus right now, is helping women, he is available to help men as well. He just has found that there's not a lot of men that have come forward that are willing to admit that they have accepted and endured abuse at home, and they're not ready to do the work. And so he realized if the men aren't willing to show up, then he's got to show up where the opportunity is. And so he has shifted his focus. But I can tell you that this is not a female issue. This is not a male issue. This is a human being issue. Yes. Is that when people are suffering and they're in pain, their behavior is such that abuse comes out in many different forms, and and it affects everyone in their life, especially if it's happening within the home.
I completely agree.
Yeah. And so, the whole key, I believe, the gateway to the healing process, as Brett described tonight in that 5-minute audio that was watched, listened to. I watched him live. For some reason, technology just was not playing with us in a playful way tonight. But coming from the place of acceptance, we just kind of go with it. For me, what's behind that video and the words, the message, is about self-care, learning how to take care of yourself. But what's really behind that is that self-care, for me at least, was a gateway to self-love. I believe that by the time we figure out that we're in abusive relationships, we have lost our ability to love ourselves, because if you love yourself, you wouldn't tolerate that behavior from anyone in your life. I don't care if it's a husband, a wife, a child, a parent, an uncle, an aunt, a boss, an employer. We don't have to tolerate unacceptable behavior from anybody.
Yeah, it all comes down to personal boundaries, and we're not taught that growing up.
And what also happens is the longer we're in it, the more we get stripped of loving ourselves, because somehow, some way, we begin to believe and think that we deserve to be treated that way.
Because we allow it. Because we only because we allow it that we feel we deserve it. I've been there too. It's not a nice place to be when you're being disrespected and disregarded. But in the end of it, we allow, and we are the ones who allow people to treat us. We teach people how to treat us.
Exactly.
So if you're not standing up and setting a boundary because you're afraid to lose somebody, right there is where you need to set that boundary. Because if they're willing to go because you set that boundary of self-care and respecting yourself, then they don't need to be in your life. They're repelled against your boundaries, which is completely a natural way of keeping people that will hurt you and disrespect you out.
Yeah. But ultimately, if we think that they're going to change their behavior, that this is the last time, and if we just do something differently for them, that they won't treat us that way again, there's where we have a limited belief system.
Yep.
I believe that's a limited belief system, and it comes from a space of we are damaged. In that moment, we're not understanding what we need to understand, which is that trying to get them to change is almost impossible. We have to be the change maker. We have to be willing to say, raise your hand and say, "Uncle, I give up. I surrender. I need help because I know this isn't good for me." And if there are children in a home, it is so damaging to the children, even though we think we are hiding it well. It's not working. It doesn't work. They are part of the collateral damage. And ultimately, we have to be the ones to step forward and change our behavior in order to detach from that unacceptable behavior. And that comes through self-care that leads to self-love. And once we have a taste of what that can feel like, we begin to understand that we no longer have to accept it, and we can set boundaries as you described it.
And accepting it's funny because growing up and just being put in front of a lot of different and really challenging situations, you learn to swallow your feelings and your genuine reactions and emotions towards anything that comes into life, and you're just used to not speaking up. And in that not speaking up is where the allowance of people who will disrespect you comes, because you have learned so fast and so easily how to reject your own feelings and accept somebody else's as true. I think the true power comes into actually being able to voice how you feel you've been disrespected based on your perspective. We value other people's perspective so much, but we forget our own. And I think that's something that you probably most likely have felt, is being enlightened, is actually accepting your own perspective and not just accepting it in radical acceptance, but valuing your own perspective, because that's your own reality.
Yes, and yes. So Deb, let's wrap this show up tonight, and let's allow ourselves to hold on to what we shared in this evening with Brett Williams coming in from Bali. I really like Brett a lot. I think that he is, my sense is he's a really good soul. I know he's coming from that space of tremendous love and kindness and personal experience, and I think he brings a lot of value to the people that are ready to start the healing process or pick up from where they left off. And I'd love to see Brett come back on the show as part of a panel. Perhaps maybe next month we'll have a panel. We'll maybe have Brett and someone else come on together.
Yes.
And have two people share and keep this conversation going. Hopefully next week we'll have a guest on that's going to come on to share their story. And I'd like to just acknowledge the people that were with us live this evening. Some of those people, Cortez, thank you so much for being here. Michelle, I want to thank you. I so much appreciate you hanging in there during the show, because I saw your earlier comment when you were going to exit out, and something told you to stay with us, and it appears as though you stayed with us. And I want to thank you and honor you for having the courage to stay on alive with Debbie and Brett and myself, and know that I acknowledge you, we acknowledge you, and we love you for being here and showing up for yourself and putting your truth right here with us in this moment, and sharing your comments. That's why we do this show, you know?
It's beautiful, isn't it? Just to see people's aha moments while we're just talking and just being ourselves. Like, this is a natural everyday thing for me to be able to have these kind of conversations with everyday people, but now it's actually broadcast and other people can relate. And I think it's just so incredible to see other people relating with us while it's happening. I think it's just absolutely amazing.
It just hits my soul, you know. It's not a bad thing, you know. I love when I get impacted by other people, by their energy, by their words, that, you know, even when they're in pain. I just love that I could feel today, and I could walk through the feelings of sympathy and empathy and compassion and pain. And even if it takes me out for a half a day or a day, I'm okay, because I know that this too shall pass, and that I will rebound up to that higher vibration, a higher energy, that positive energy that I hold on to daily. And I know this: if I didn't go out and take care of myself every morning and do some self-care, I wouldn't be able to rebound. You know, I'd stay in that low level of sadness and pain for others. But you know, through self-care, we rebound, we come back, and we're able to show up and hopefully make an impact and help people, inspire people to step forward in their own healing journey. And so, Debbie, I just want to close out by saying I honor you and thank you for showing up every week with me on this platform, Spirituality Gone Wild, on this channel, to do real people, real stories, and to continue to show up, honoring yourself and your story and your truth, and knowing that by being present, you're a change maker. You help other people step forward, and I thank you for that.
And I really thank you very much, and I accept that so much, and I appreciate you coming to me and saying, hey, let's start a show together, because I know that I see value in what you do, and I really appreciate what you do. So I really thank you very much for believing in me. And we're change makers. Let's do this. We got this.
All right. Well, have a beautiful week. I love you, Debbie.
Thank you. I love you too, Jay.
Keep smiling, and let's touch base maybe Wednesday.
Okay.
And let's get this show back on the air next Sunday evening.
Okay.
Real people, real stories.
Stories raw.
Have an awesome week.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.